49 fights, 49 wins, 43 knockouts. Rocky Marciano is the only heavyweight champion in history to retire undefeated. But here's what makes him truly terrifying. It's not the record. He stood 5'10" with the shortest reach of any heavyweight champion ever. He was smaller, slower, and less skilled than almost every man he faced, and he destroyed them all. Joe Louis said just bumping into him hurt. Archie Moore said every single punch hurt. Jersey Joe Walcott was reportedly trembling before their rematch. 4 legends stepped into the ring with Marciano. 4 legends learned the same lesson. You cannot stop what doesn't know how to quit. Joe Louis held the heavyweight title for 12 years, 25 consecutive defenses. He was the most dominant champion boxing had ever seen. So when he says a man terrified him, you listen. Louis came out of retirement in 1951, broke and desperate. Marciano was the opponent nobody wanted to give him, not because Louis would lose, because of how he would lose. Dr. Ferdy Pacheco predicted it before the fight even started. He wasn't just going to lose, he was going to take a vicious, savage beating. Before the eyes of the nation, Joe Louis was going to get beaten up. That's exactly what happened. Round 8 at Madison Square Garden, a left hook put Louis on the canvas. He dragged himself up at 8. Then Marciano hit him with everything, left hook, right hand, and drove the brown bombers straight through the ropes. Louis landed on the ring apron. The fight was over. But the real terror wasn't the knockout, it was what Louis said afterward. When reporters asked if Schmeling, the only other man to stop him, hit harder, Louis answered, "This kid took me out with 2 or 3 punches. It took Schmeling 100. He also said, "It hurt just to bump into him." And later, "It wasn't a book he hit me with, it was a whole library of bone crushers." Louis never fought again. He announced his retirement 4 months later, saying, "I made up my mind when I was knocked out by Rocky Marciano." 1 fight, career over. That's terrifying. Jersey Joe Walcott had been fighting for 22 years, over 70 professional bouts. He'd knocked down Joe Louis. He was the oldest man to ever win the heavyweight title. Walcott feared nobody, so when reporters asked him who hit harder, Joe Louis or Rocky Marciano, his answer carried weight. "Joe could take you out with combinations," Walcott said. Marciano was a one-punch artist. He threw every punch like you throw a baseball, as hard as he could. I have to say, with all respect to Joe, Marciano hit harder. Walcott learned that the hard way. September 23, 1952. He knocked Marciano down in round 1, the first man ever to do it professionally. Marciano jumped up and screamed at him. For 12 rounds, Walcott outboxed him beautifully, cut his face, blurred his vision, led on all 3 scorecards. Then, round 13, 1 right hand to the jaw. Walcott's face twisted. He collapsed against the ropes, slid to the floor, and stayed there, motionless, long after the count reached 10. ESPN later called it the greatest knockout in boxing history. The rematch, 8 months later, told the rest of the story. Someone guiding Walcott to the ring held his elbow and felt the former champion trembling. That man later said, "I knew that if Joe went down, he wasn't going to get back up." Round 1. 2 minutes 25 seconds. Knockout. Walcott never fought again. 1 punch didn't just end a fight, it ended a 22-year career. And Walcott himself told you why. Marciano hit harder than anyone he'd ever faced. Ezzard Charles was the man Rocky Marciano himself feared most. Not Louis, not Walcott, not Moore. When asked who gave him the hardest fight, Marciano didn't hesitate. "Ezzard Charles, I learned what pain was all about when I fought him." That tells you something. But what Charles said about Marciano tells you more. Rocky numbs you all over, Charles explained. Wherever he hits you, he hurts you. On the arms, the shoulders, the neck, and the head. Not just the clean shots. Everything. Every punch from every angle carried damage. Charles was one of the most technically perfect fighters who ever lived. The Cincinnati Cobra, 83 wins, former heavyweight champion. His footwork, defense, and combination punching were flawless. In their first fight, June 1954, he proved it. He sliced open a gash above Marciano's left eye, so deep that cutman Freddie Brown said he couldn't remember treating a worse cut in his career. For 15 rounds, Charles made Marciano bleed. The referee later said Charles hit Rocky with 5 and 6 punch combinations that would have broken most fighters. But then he described what made Marciano different. After a fighter hit him with his best punches, Rocky would come chasing right back him up against the ropes, and throw 7 or 8 punches of his own. Charles won the boxing. Marciano won the fight, unanimous decision. 3 months later, the rematch. This time, Marciano's nose was split open vertically in round 6, a wound so gruesome it would stop any fight today. Charles targeted it. Blood poured everywhere. Marciano's corner told him to finish it or risk being stopped. Round 8. Face destroyed, barely recognizable, Marciano threw everything he had. He dropped Charles twice. Fight over. Charles said afterward, "If it had gone 2 more rounds, I'd have won. His nose was busted. I don't think he could have gone past 10. My luck just ran out." That's the terrifying part. You do everything right. You cut him open, you're winning, and he still knocks you out. Because Rocky Marciano didn't fight with his face. He fought with something you couldn't cut. Archie Moore knocked out more men than any fighter in boxing history. He'd studied Marciano on film and was certain he had the answer. "I've taken him apart like a watchmaker takes a watch apart," Moore said before the fight. "Marciano won't be able to solve what I put in front of him." Round 2. Moore baited Marciano forward, counted his steps, and landed a perfect uppercut. Rocky hit the canvas. Moore later admitted, "If I had set myself better, that punch might have knocked him out. Maybe, because I'd knocked out a lot of guys." But Marciano was up at the count of 3. And from that moment, the watchmaker's plan fell apart. Rocky came forward throwing punches like, in Moore's own words, an airplane propeller. Round after round, Moore went from attacking to defending to simply surviving. By round 9, it was over. Afterward, Moore was brutally honest. Rocky didn't know enough boxing to know what a feint was. He never tried to outguess you. He just kept trying to knock your brains out. Then, the admission that defined it all. "I had the braggadocio and the skill and the guts, but that wasn't enough. Marciano beat me down." When reporters asked which of Marciano's punches hurt most, Moore answered, "Man, they all hurt." 4 legends, 4 of the greatest heavyweights who ever lived. Each one walked into the ring with a plan to beat Rocky Marciano. Each one had the skill, the experience, the courage. None of it was enough. Lewis said Marciano hit him with a whole library of bone crushers. Walcott said he threw every punch as hard as humanly possible. Charles said every shot numbed you all over. Moore said they all hurt, every single one. These weren't nobodies. These were kings of the heavyweight division. And they all said the same thing. You could hit Rocky Marciano, cut him, drop him, outbox him for 12 rounds, and it didn't matter. He kept coming. He always kept coming. Rocky Marciano retired 49-0. He stood 5'10" with the shortest reach of any heavyweight champion in history. He never claimed to be the most skilled. He didn't need to be. Because skill can be studied, speed can be timed, power can be measured. But whatever Rocky Marciano had, the thing that made 4 legends describe the same man with the same word, that couldn't be measured, and it couldn't be stopped.